On part 2 of our interview with the legendary Mechai Varivaidya, we chat about his legacy as Thailand's condom king.
So if you're interested in hearing the thoughts of one of Thailand's leading social reformers, and let me just say interesting personality, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who floats his krathong on the other side of the pond, if you know what I mean.
Actually, I don't really know what that means, but I don't want to know what that means. And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 17 years ago, saw a Starbucks and a McDonald's at the end of my soy in Bangkok, and decided to stay.
Nice.
Okay, we want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Cody Stratman, who supports us at the show shout-out level. Stick around after we're done talking about Khun Mechai Varivaidya to hear what animal scares Cody so much that he's going to move to Thailand to avoid it. And you can learn more about becoming a patron on our website. And, of course, one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we talk about all kinds of stuff. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we actually had a special guest in the first half of the bonus show, Greg's mom.
That's right.
All the way here from Canada. She's been to Bangkok 6 times in the past 17 years and has noticed a few things about the city that have changed that we, Greg and I, as full-time residents, don't necessarily notice changing around us like slowly. So it's good to get the Greg's mom perspective, and we talked about it on the bonus show.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to now be the complete opposite of what I was as a young upstart punk, not interested in anything, my mom says, now actually getting her on the podcast to get a little bit of her expertise on Bangkok. So yeah, it was really cool to talk to her on the show, and I thought she had some good insights there.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, well, before we jump into it, I want to mention a couple of quick things. First of all, something my buddy Scott said to me. Now, listeners, just to bring you up to speed on, if you're not a patron, on last week's bonus show, which goes out only to our patrons, we talked about some of the issues that we have with taxis in Bangkok. And Ed came up with 3 actually really great ideas that would improve the overall quality and happiness that people have with taxi service in Bangkok. You have to listen to the show to get those. I'm not going to go into them again, but my buddy Scott, after listening to the episode, he had another great idea. And Ed, I haven't told you what this is yet, and I wanted to see what you think about it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this will be, so I think on that bonus show last week, I put forth 3 plans, kind of like plan A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3, something like that. So you've got a 4th one is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, he said if you really want to incentivize the taxi drivers to improve the service they offer, you should take the occupation of taxi driver off of the proscribed list of occupations in Thailand, which is another way of saying you should make taxi drivers a position, a job, a career that's open to anyone of any nationality. And that would mean a lot of Burmese and Laotians and people from neighboring countries would be able to get a job as a taxi driver. The competition would increase, and therefore the likelihood that someone would just be able to say, like, not interested in taking your money today would drop. What do you think of that?
Okay, interesting solution. I think he's probably technically correct. That part of the problem is a lack of competition. I don't know the details, but the Thai taxi drivers might even be unionized. Maybe not, but you're definitely right. It's not like in the U.S. It's kind of a cliche that many taxi drivers are foreigners in the U.S.
Right.
But that is not the case in Thailand. Like they seem to all be Thai, and for the reason you stated. So I think that's a good idea. I think it would increase competition, but it has one major flaw, which is I think politically it's just not feasible. Like I think they would never allow Burmese or Laotians to drive taxis. I just don't see it. We've talked about it on the show before. They're very careful the kind of work they let foreigners do, and mostly they're worried about lower level jobs as opposed to higher level jobs. So I mean, you and I have talked about our own work permit issues, but I think they're primarily they really want to protect jobs for Thai people on the low end.
Yeah, fair enough. And I thought about that too. It would be politically dangerous as an understatement to sort of propose this kind of thing. You get all kinds of pushback, but purely as an idea of what might work as a market force, I think it's a pretty good idea, actually. It really kind of blow the thing open. And
Agreed. It's worth adding to the list. I think the idea, if politically possible, would be worth a try for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And in the meantime, we're just going to keep our fingers crossed that the next guy doesn't turn us down while we're waiting in the rain.
Right, exactly.
And also, real quick shout out to a guy named Daniel who said hi to me on the street. Now check this out, Ed. I was walking down the street the other day with my mom, and we were outside MBK, just going into Siam Discovery Center, and I hear this voice, "Are you Greg Jorgensen?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "Hey, I'm Daniel. I'm from Sweden. I listen to the podcast. It's really helpful, blah, blah, blah." So, this guy stopped me on the street, which was a little bit weird, but very nice to hear. So thanks, Daniel. I'm glad you get some use out of the show. And now, especially, my mom thinks I'm some kind of superstar.
I was going to say, man, dude, that was good timing.
People stopped me on the street.
Are you sure you didn't put that guy up to it, man? I mean, it sounds like you now your mom thinks you're a celebrity.
Yeah, well, that's just between me and Daniel. But, yeah.
That's
Thanks
cool.
for that, man. Hope you enjoy. Hope you continue enjoying the show. All right, so this episode is part 2 of our conversation with legendary politician, businessman, author, and philanthropist Khun Mechai Varivaidya. If for some reason you didn't listen to part 1 yet and need to be brought up to speed, Khun Mechai came to prominence for his groundbreaking family planning initiatives in the 1970s and AIDS awareness campaigns in the 1980s. He has twice served as a senator as well as a minister of tourism and in various other high-level roles in the government and private sector over the decades. He's also founder of the PDA, the Population and Community Development Association, one of Thailand's leading NGOs which works tirelessly to promote family planning, community health, and various rural initiatives that better the lives of thousands of people throughout Thailand and Asia. And in 2007, the PDA was awarded the Gates Award by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in recognition of its pioneering work in the family planning and AIDS prevention. So, with that out of the way, here is part 2 of our interview with Khun Mechai Varivaidya. Well, let's talk about your organization a little bit, the PDA. It isn't only about condoms and birth control and family planning. Now, you're working on some initiatives to improve resource development, rural enterprise programs, and microcredit schemes in Thailand. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we have been operating for 45 years. So that's quite a long time. Mm-hmm. One of the oldest NGOs in Thailand. We've had 5 basic journeys of trying to improve the quality of life. The first one was to reduce births, and that is family planning. And of course it went well. I've already explained that. It's down from 7 to under 2 children. The second one was to reduce deaths, and that was due to HIV/AIDS. We were very strong. The government didn't agree with it, didn't like it, but we believed that we needed to do it. We succeeded in doing it, and the book will tell you what we did. And as it turned out, according to the UNAIDS, over a 12-year period beginning 1991 to 2002, about a 12-year period, the number of new infections declined by 90%, the major decline in the whole world.
Wow.
Second, the World Bank said during the same period, 1990 to 2002, 12-year period, 7.7 million Thais had been prevented from dying from HIV and AIDS. And as of statistics of last year, according to the World Bank, it was 10 million. Now imagine if we didn't push hard on this, where Thailand would be, okay? So the first one is that we came down from 7 children to 2, and our population growth came down from about 36, came up from 36 to 67. And the Philippines, the same thing, but up to 110 million. So almost double that. That's what we did. Mm-hmm. And then the third journey was to reduce poverty by getting the private sector to work with the poor communities in what we call a village development partnership. The fourth one was to reduce financial dependence on others, creating the Thailand's first social enterprise 44 years ago. You're sitting in one right now, Cabbages and Condoms. This is one of 28 that we have in terms of social enterprises. And the fifth one is reducing ignorance by coming up with a new education system in the creation of the bamboo school. And now we're moving from the bamboo school to help 50 schools a year. We've done about 180 to let these schools to become lifelong learning centers and hubs for social and economic advancement, using the school as a gateway into putting in social and economic advancement in the villages surrounding the school. So these are the major five. But the other minor two, one was the refugee during the Khmer refugee in 1979, 80, 81, when the country busted and came over to Thailand. And the other one was during the tsunami, when it happened down south, and we were involved in doing economic assistance to not villages that lost lives, but villages that lost their source of income. So we did that. So 5 plus 2, this has been our work for the last 45 years.
Wow, fantastic.
Can you tell me more about the school? I'm curious what's different about your
Well, the bamboo
your
school is a school based on our belief that a school must change from being a desktop telephone to a mobile telephone. And you can imagine the difference between the two, right? So it's a school where it's a lifelong learning center for everyone, not just for kids, and also as a gateway or hub for social and economic advancement in the villages surrounding the school. That's the first one. Students are taught not rote memorization, but how to have life skills and occupational skills as well as academic skills. They are involved in running the school. They do all the buying, everything that is bought at the school. Students do that.
Wow.
There's a student government, and they come up with rules, regulations, or make changes. They look after the menu, the food. They are responsible for interviewing and selecting incoming students. They're also responsible for interviewing teachers and evaluating them also. We do business in the school. We have a loan fund of 300,000 baht per class for students to actually borrow. We have training. We want to build them into sort of future social entrepreneurs. And so this is what the kids are doing. They also pay their school fees in community service and tree planting. What they do is that parents and kids do half and half. Each must do 400 hours of community service and plant 400 trees. So now, as a result of this, our students have to think outside the box, and they're trying to come up with a system whereby a credit card system would be used for people who are doing goodness, doing good, kind deeds. So it can be a kind deeds credit card, and using this as a new type of currency. Why should it only be monetary currency? Why not human and goodness currency? Again, we're teaching our kids to think outside the box.
So the idea is someone will volunteer, do some charity work, and then get some credit, which then they could use at maybe a shop or a store somewhere.
Whatever, yes. We hope to have more shops and business institutions joining in. And it would articulate the fact that to do good is good. To be good is good. Not just to have money is good.
That's such a great idea. Why hasn't it been used or thought of before?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do it now.
That's fantastic. Is that in Bangkok, or is it all throughout Thailand?
We're starting in Buriram. It has to be nationwide. I'm sure other kids, other schools can do it. And for imagine, this restaurant, several other restaurants, all our 19 restaurants will do it. And for instance, if we can convince later on 7-Eleven, it would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Then people realize, hey, I should do some good, because by doing good, it makes somebody else happy, but it also gives me brownie points.
Right. Sure.
In 2007, you won the Bill Gates Award for Global Health, which came with a $1 million prize. How does an organization like yours decide what to do with that kind of money?
Well, we built a school with it.
Simple.
Yeah, and that wasn't enough. We got another $1 million from the Skoll Foundation, another $1 million because of our work in social entrepreneurship, and I put another $1 million from a piece of land that my father had given me that I sold, and used that money to be the third $1 million, and that's being used for the school. So that's what we did with it. Easy, I could do with another $1 million easily.
I think we all could. Bill Gates wants to give me some money, that's totally fine as well. All right, let's switch gears a little bit to some other topics. Now, in the early 90s, you served as Thailand's Minister of Tourism.
Yes.
As Thailand's tourist numbers continue to soar, what are your thoughts on the seeming sort of like growth at all costs kind of things?
That's never been my philosophy. If you have growth at all costs, this starts disasters around the corner.
Right.
And you can also see it. It's hard to believe when you take a look at some of the video clips of the people at this beach where there's hardly any space for ants.
Yeah.
And if that's tourism, how long are they going to stay there? They're not going to come back.
I've been on a beach like that in Krabi, and it was awful.
So you have to manage it well. And I hope that they disappear for a while, so the avaricious people will recognize that, hey, you're going to eat yourself into trouble. And so the idea is to have managed and properly doing it. But I somehow don't see our government being smart enough to handle it.
Unfortunately, I think in those kind of situations, you don't realize you're that close to the cliff edge until it's too late.
Yes.
Well,
that's why you have to bring more people into it. For instance, a perfect example is the building of the houses, accommodation for judges and people in the ministry in Chiang Mai. And they came out and do it. So we have to do the same thing at other places more and more.
Right.
Otherwise, Thailand will be gone. And you can't depend on the Chinese tourists. You can see they come and then they go.
Yeah.
And you've got to be sensible about it. You're selling Thailand at any cost. It's ridiculous. And the other one is not how much does tourism, it helps, but how much does it help the poor in terms of income disparity? All right? Let me give you a few statistics. Today, we have 7 million Thais out of 67. 7 million Thais, just over 10%, who live under 80 baht a day. Or how are these people benefiting from tourism or from anything? Right? The first one. Second, there is 1% of the Thai population that owns more than the 99% of Thai people in terms of wealth in the country. Now, that's the stuff we also have to address. And so rich people have to learn, and starting with kids, learn how to share. That's why we learn how to share in our school, where kids have to sit in wheelchairs. Every kid must sit for 1 day per month, to learn about the difficulties of life of other people. They must walk blindfolded for half a day. They must also learn sign language to talk to the deaf. These are the things you have to do to the kids, to the children, next generation. Otherwise, they're going to be mean. They're not going to care. Not because they're bad people, but they've not been taught. So they're not going to share and help other people. And this is what we have to do. Unless we do it, these people are going to come one day and cut their throats.
As a father of a 4-year-old, I am concentrating a lot on what you're saying right now, because it's something that I think about a lot. Yeah.
I've got a just random question that comes up anytime you discuss this wealth inequality. This question of whether there should be a property tax in Thailand.
Well, there is a property tax, but they're still arguing a bit more. There's, at the moment, there's some, but it's inadequate. They're talking about another property tax now.
Do you think that could help? Is that the kind of thing you support?
Yes, so of course. But make it sensible. I mean, if you see that the house used to be worth 200,000-300,000 baht, but today for an ordinary house it's 2 million. So if you go on a price of yesterday, people are going to be in trouble. So you have to be realistic in price. And nowadays, the price of land is just exorbitant.
And we have a segment on the show that we do every week where we talk about one aspect of living in Bangkok that confuses us or confounds us. Mm-hmm. And one of them was the book banks that the banks give out. Now, you were chairman of Krung Thai Bank. Mm-hmm. So can we please get some clarification on these things? Why are they so important in Thailand? Well,
it's evidence that you have, that how much money you have in the bank, that you hold it on you, because so long you didn't get all the information from the bank. The bank gave you you take the bank book in and they stamp it, update it. You know, all this IT stuff came much later on. They're still stuck to the old way. It's just like old marriages. Same way. You know, we're stuck with the bank book and you're stuck with the guns.
I think I'd rather have the bank book.
But that's the reason. We have it in the villages now. We run over 1,000 what we call village development banks. It's a loan fund. The money came from the private sector, given to the villagers, but in return they must plant trees, and that money is used for a loan fund operated by the villagers. And there's a bank book to show how much you owe, how much you have. And you keep it at home and you update it every month, and so you have it.
Maybe the problem is
Because the trust in an institution like that has not been sufficiently developed.
But one day, hopefully, it will.
Oh, one day.
Okay.
One day, but not yet.
I look forward to that day.
Well, just like, some countries, policemen and so on, is one day it might be.
Fingers crossed. Well, one of the things we like to talk about on the show also is food. Last week's show, we talked about the pizza company's durian pizza, and we tried it. Not a fan. Not fans of durian pizza.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that your mother was Scottish and your father is Thai. Yeah. And actually, my mother's side of my family is McGregor, so maybe you and I are related from way
back.
back.
We can make you McGregor Condom.
Okay. Is it tartan?
Tartan, yes.
Well, what I have here is a bag of haggis and pepper potato chips. I was wondering if maybe you could try them with me and let me know if it's a real flavor, because I've never had haggis.
I have no idea, but I'm delighted. I know what haggis is.
Let's give it a shot.
You guys are going to try it on the podcast live.
These are a product of Scotland, made in Scotland. Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
Actually, we should do, what's the kaprao chips? Yeah. Should have what's kaprao in English? Basil chips. Yeah. Let's do that.
I would buy them. Yeah.
It's nice.
These haggis chips aren't that bad. They taste just kind of like peppery.
A bit salty, but it's nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, one day hopefully I can try real haggis, but until then...
That book, if you look carefully, you will see that I am wearing my Scottish tartan in a Thai window to represent my mother, who's Scottish, and father, who's Thai. And that was used for American Express advertisement 30 years ago.
Oh, really? Great.
And the book you're speaking of is called From Condoms to Cabbages, an authorized biography of Mechai Varivaidya.
And there are all sorts of stuff in there. They give you a good knowledge of what happened in Thailand and also back in England in the 1900s.
Yeah, it's sort of
off with my father going to England and his parents and my parents.
It's a perennial favorite. I always see it at Asia Books and other bookstores in Thailand, so make sure to pick up a copy.
We now have a Thai version.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Great.
Just came out about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, cool. Is it available on Kindle as well?
Not the Thai one yet.
It's in Thai.
Okay, so the English is available on ebook and the Thai one will come soon. Great.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
Me too, very much so, yeah.
I think you'll learn a lot from it.
I think I will too. Yeah.
Thai history too.
Sure.
Yeah.
What happened during the war?
Well, sir, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Well, you're welcome to come again.
I think so, and if I find any more haggis flavored things, I'll bring them. I'll bring them by. But
Okay.
I think we're going to head off now and finish this bag of chips.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So wow. I mean, we talked about him a little bit last week at the end of part one, but I'll just reiterate. My general impression of that guy is, damn, he's an impressive person. I mean, he's smart, he's funny, he seems worldly, but still very Thai. It's like obviously he's he's half Scottish. We established, but he's also got this very Thai vibe about him. He definitely doesn't come across as like a Westerner, but his English is fantastic. And I don't know. I wish I could vote. If I could vote for Prime Minister and he was running, he would get my vote.
Yeah, that's a very good description. He's a very Western-minded Thai person who's sort of both very Western and very Thai, and he does a really good job of bridging both cultures. So, yeah, it was really cool talking to him. The only word I keep coming back to is feisty.
Yeah, he's feisty, feisty dude. But like anyone who survives in the world of politics has to be feisty.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's so many different things he mentioned. Like as I think I mentioned last week on the show, if you just run the numbers, like the numbers that he is talking about are shocking. Like he said that I forget the exact dates, but he said that in the 70s the population of Thailand and the Philippines were basically the same, and that if you track population now, he said the Philippines has a population of like 120 million, and Thailand only has Thailand has a population under 70 million, and he again, I'm no expert on it, but he was essentially taking credit for keeping Thailand's population down. I mean, if that's true, I mean that's shocking. I mean that's like a matter of major historical significance. Like that makes him like a major person in Thai history. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's one of those things where he sort of like dropped a boulder into the pond of Thailand, and
I mean, it's really
the effects are going to be felt for a long time.
It's amazing he's not even more famous than he is. Like I mentioned to my students at the university that I participated in that interview, and not my students basically didn't know who I was talking about. But a few students were like, "Oh yeah, that guy," and they explained it to the other students, and they're like, "Oh yeah," like it was like he's some kind of vague marginal figure, like that they had heard about but didn't know that much about. And I was just like, "Oh my God!" Like this guy. I mean, I guess to some people what he did is controversial, since he promoted birth control. And if you're like, as he talked about, if you're like some hardcore Catholic and you're against birth control, I guess you could look at him as like some kind of negative figure. NGOs, I've got a lot of friends who work with NGOs. NGOs struggle to have a small impact. I mean, it's a pretty, NGOs have a difficult job. Like, most of the social problems they work on are just immensely difficult, like the refugee problem we've talked about. And the idea that he had such a massive impact. I mean, he as he pointed out, like his AIDS initiatives, like his own AIDS initiatives, it could have saved like millions of lives.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I can't even get my head around that interview. It's like I have to go back and listen to them again myself, because I don't understand why this guy's not more famous.
One of the things that impressed me most about him was just how he sort of said, like, someone would say, "Here's a problem. Can we solve it?" And everyone was like, "No, we can't solve that problem." And he was like, "Well, how about we attack it from this angle?" "Oh, yeah, well, that would work." Like, for instance, when he got the Buddhist clergy on his side for,
right, of course,
getting behind family planning and stuff like that. Like, what a really interesting idea and a unique angle to sort of attack the problem from, and a weird, unconventional body to get on your side. I mean, as sort of the Western layman would see it, but and what he said made total sense.
Yeah, so, I mean, as he said in the interview, it's like the idea of thinking outside the box. That idea is not some kind of new idea. Everyone says that, or everyone talks about it, but he's a doer, man. I mean, he thinks outside the box, and then he does it, and it, at least a lot of his stuff seems to have worked really well. And even besides like the population control, the AIDS awareness stuff and prevention, the school stuff he was talking about was fascinating. The kind of schools he's building and the way the students administer the school, like that's one of the coolest ideas I've ever heard. Like that the students are participate in all the administration of the school. Like it's that not even sure I've ever heard of that before. Like in any context.
Dude just gets shit done, and mad props to Khun Mechai for that. So thanks again for coming on, and for his staff for arranging the interview too. Hopefully we can have him on again one day, because it was great fun.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that he enjoyed the interview, because he seems to be a wealth of interesting stories about Thailand. And we do have certain guests, such as Pra Pandit, who've been on many times. Man, if Khun Mechai wants to come back again, I think we should do it for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or leave. That's where one of us surprises the other one with a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here or hate so much that it makes us want to leave forever. And this week, Ed, I have one for you.
Okay.
All right. So have you ever been invited to a Thai wedding and you think like, all right, I got to get the money in the envelope. Here we go. I'm going to pick up my suit and iron my shirt and tie and polish my shoes. And then you go outside and you got to get to the wedding and it's 35 degrees and you're sweating and you show up and you're there in your little suit and you're hot and it's uncomfortable and yay, congratulations. And then you notice one or more guys walk into the wedding wearing like camouflage cargo shorts and a ripped Iron Maiden t-shirt. You're like, how the hell did that guy get in? And I have to put on this goddamn suit.
Well, first off, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if I've ever seen the camo at the wedding, but it's weird that this. We talked a little bit on this week's bonus show about how Thai people are good at dressing casually, but I think I said not slovenly.
Yeah,
but I did mention on the bonus show. It's funny that. In general, I feel like Thai people aren't that into dressing formally, and this exact problem has happened to me at several events where, it'll say formal attire, and I will show up in a suit and tie, and very rarely do Thai men wear suit and ties. Obviously, sometimes they do, but a lot of events that are supposed to be suit and tie, like most guys will roll in a dress shirt without a jacket or tie, and then occasionally you get younger Thai guys who just roll in like super casual. Although I'm not sure I ever have seen camo and Iron Maiden t-shirts at a wedding, but maybe. But maybe. That might
have been a bit of an exaggeration, but you see what I'm going for. Just like you look at the guy and think like, God damn, if I knew I could dress like that, I would have looked better than him, but still more comfortable in what a suit is.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I do think there's a bit of cross-cultural like misinterpretation where if an invitation to me says formal attire, then that means you have to wear formal attire. But I think Thai people just interpret it more casually and so it maybe kind of like, it's like the old joke about like Thai time. It's like, Westerners, if you tell them, hey, the meeting starts at 2 p.m., like we're going to be there at 2 p.m. But Thai people, when they hear 2 p.m., they interpret that as like 2:15. Like that's the real start time.
Yeah.
So maybe it's kind of like that they interpret like formal attire as, oh, that means like I can wear a dress shirt with no tie.
I think they hear it in sort of like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer says to Marge while he's driving, he says, "Oh, Marge, the traffic lights are just a suggestion, like pants."
That does sound like Homer Simpson, but I'm with you on this one. I've been in this situation before where I feel overdressed, and especially in this heat, it really sucks to feel overdressed. So I'm gonna go loathe. I'm gonna go loathe on this one.
I'm also gonna go loathe, but I loathe that I never take advantage of it. But I love the fact that it's possible. It's one of those weird dual ones. I loathe and love it. Like I love the fact that if I showed up in shorts and a nice polo shirt, I could probably get away with it.
Probably true. I mean, you can. I think mostly you can get away with dressing down. I think you probably could. Yeah. I think you could get away with it in a way, especially as a foreigner, because you can always plead ignorance as a foreigner, like, oh, I didn't understand what the deal was.
I do that. I do that quite a bit. People are like, oh, poor dumb Farang. Let's just give him a pass on this one.
That's so funny. Anyway, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Cody Stratman for lending us his support at the show shout-out level. And Greg, what did you find out about Cody?
Well, Ed, as it turns out, Cody is another one of our patrons who puts little cream puffs like you and I to shame. Cody lives in Alaska, and he grew up on a ranch riding horses since he was a toddler. Can you believe that?
Whoa.
And when he was 5, he was charged by a bear. And his dad, possibly the only person even more badass than Cody, he fended it off. That's Cody's words. Fended off a bear.
Whoa.
How do you fend off a bear?
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like saying, yeah, this tiger attacked me, but I got away. Like details, man.
Yeah, really.
Details.
Right.
So Cody's job used to be nuts. Check this out. He used to climb towers installing wireless networking equipment in Colorado. And you've seen videos, I'm sure, on YouTube of these guys, like just thousands of feet above the ground.
Yeah, I could not do that.
And when he got bored of that, he moved back to Alaska, where his dog, a big dog, he reminded me, was eaten by a bear.
Jesus.
Yeah. So unsurprisingly, Cody said he hopes to move to Thailand in the next few years, where the only bears he'll find are on Silom Soi 4.
You had to sneak that one in there, didn't you?
If I was gay, I would be a bear myself and proud of it.
No doubt. No doubt. Wow. Okay. All right, Cody. Well, if you make it to Bangkok, let's get a beer.
Yeah. A beer, not a bear. Because
that's right.
If that's your thing, more power to you, but I ain't interested. Thanks for the support, man. And there are definitely no bears in Bangkok of the savage dog eating kind.
All right, before we wrap up, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of our patrons who are listening now. As everyone knows, we don't run ads or have sponsors, so we really do appreciate the support we get from our patrons. And if you want to get in touch with us, it's easy. Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We always write back. If you write it, we will answer it.
You can also find us on the Line app, where we post each episode and carry on conversations with you, our listeners. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter if you'd like, where I am BKK Greg. So thank you for listening, everyone, really, and we will see you back here next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
Yeah, the first time in my life, I'm actually like really interested in what she's saying. Not the first time in my life, but certainly more than I did when I was a young punk, ignoring everything she said.
That sounded a little bit harsh. It's the first time in my life. First time in my life I've ever been interested in anything she said.
Fuck, let me say that again.
First time in my life I've ever listened to that old coot.
All right, let me say it again. That did sound pretty bad.